My husband gave our house to his mistress in a text and told me find somewhere else. I opened my phone and read a text that ended everything. My husband signed the deed over to someone else and told me to find somewhere else to live. I sat on the kitchen floor and couldn't breathe. I tried calling him, but the call went straight to voicemail. He'd been acting off for months, but we had a mortgage, bills, and a dog. I thought it was stress from work, not that he'd be planning my eviction while I slept. Things started feeling off when he started locking his laptop and taking calls in the garage. He said it was work stuff and I let it go. Then he stopped wanting dinner with me almost every night. He said he was tired and I believed him. I found a receipt in the trash for flowers at midnight from a florist I hadn't seen before. He said it was for a client. He lied. He started leaving for work earlier and coming home later. One morning I found lipstick on a coffee mug in the guest room I kept for guests. When I asked who'd used it, he said I worried too much. I took a photo and saved it like a small warning to myself. 2 weeks later, I noticed his phone name for one contact was a single letter. He said he changed it to keep things tidy. He was hiding her. Then one night his car wasn't where he parked it. He said he left it at the shop. He didn't. I found a hotel receipt tucked under a cookbook. He said it was an old trip. The date matched the night I couldn't reach him. I started keeping mild receipts and screenshots of weird things because I felt stupid when I tried to tell my friends. I didn't know what I was collecting or why it mattered yet. Everything blew up the day the text came. He sent it at 7:02 a.m. while I was sleeping on the couch with our dog. The text included a photo of the signed deed and a few words telling me to figure out where I was going. I saved the screenshot like a wound. My phone filled with her messages thanking him and saying she couldn't wait to host Thanksgiving. My head went fuzzy and I couldn't hear anything for a minute. I walked into his office and found his laptop open to a bank transfer confirmation. He'd moved money to her account the same week. I went to the county recorder online and pulled the deed with the same hands trembling I had that morning. The deed was stamped, recorded, and had her name on it. He said later that it was a joke, that he never meant it. But the deed had my address and our mortgage on it, and her name where mine had been. For a minute I thought we could fix it. He cried and asked for one last chance, and I almost fell for it. He promised he would unwind everything and get help for his midlife crisis. He promised to sign whatever papers I wanted and to tell the bank it was a clerical error. 2 days after he promised to fix it, the locksmith called. He said the locks had been changed and there was someone living in the guest room using our mail. I drove home with my heart in my throat. The front door had a new deadbolt and the mail slot had a new name on the small box. I texted him and he sent back a single line saying, "Find somewhere else." He didn't come home that night. The next morning there was an eviction notice taped to the front door. It said the owner had requested immediate possession. I pulled up the county case online and saw a quitclaim deed filed with the recorder and a small signature page that matched the text. It was legal and quick and my name was gone. I called a lawyer at noon because I couldn't move a house with a backpack and a dog. She said quitclaim deeds can be undone, but not if the property was already transferred and the new owner recorded it with consideration. I asked what consideration meant and she said cash, loans, anything that looked like payment. I told her I'd seen the transfer and the florist and the hotel and now a string of purchases on his credit card. She told me to stop talking to him and to get a restraining order if I felt unsafe. She also told me to get copies of everything I could find and to not sign anything. I went through his accounts at night while he lived with her in my house. I found wire transfers to her account, Airbnb receipts under her name for family visits, and a notarized letter that looked like a simple gift. He'd signed the deed over as a gift, it said. He'd written that he wanted her to have a place of her own. That gift language made the transfer faster, but it also built a paper trail. The lawyer said gifts are still gifts and can be challenged if they were made under fraud or duress. I printed every receipt I could and put them into a folder. The dog slept on the pile of papers like he knew they were mine now. My parents called and told me to take the high road. My dad said money could buy a lot, but not respect. He was wrong about the money, but right about the rest. My mother begged me not to ruin my marriage. She said marriages had bumps and to think about my future. I didn't know my future. At a minimum, I had no home and a husband who moved out overnight. I slept on my sister's couch for a week and fought every urge to go back. I didn't want to give him the chance to say one more thing that would make me doubt myself. The woman started posting photos on social media of her new life in my guest room. She didn't blur her face or tag him. She wanted to be seen. One photo showed her child's birthday with our backyard decorations and no mention of me. The caption said they were finally home. I sent a certified letter demanding her to stop using the property until the dispute was resolved. She sent a lawyer's response the next day asking whether I planned to fight for the deed and offering to negotiate. Negotiation meant money. "Offer me half and I won't make you move," her lawyer wrote. I didn't want anything from her except the keys. But the lawyer's letter was a trap. They expected me to show desperation by taking cash and walking away. Instead, I filed a petition in court to set aside the transfer. I asked the judge to freeze the deed and the bank to put a hold on any funds related to the house. The hearing was 2 weeks later and felt like walking into a courtroom where strangers had opinions about my life. Her lawyer painted me as the angry wife who wouldn't forgive a mistake. My lawyer hit back with texts and bank slips and hotel receipts and the florist invoices. He made an album of screenshots from months before and highlighted the transfers right before the deed change. Then I found an email thread between my husband and her about laundering money through a shell company he owned. It was messy and criminal, and it turned the case from family drama to fraud. My stomach dropped when I read it. He wrote she needed cover and he'd handle payroll to move money without raising red flags. I turned that threat into evidence, and the judge looked at my husband with a face that didn't know what to do with the man I married. The bench order froze the deed and ordered an immediate forensic accounting. Everything slowed down and tightened at once. They subpoenaed bank records and phone records and asked the county to pull surveillance from the closing. My husband stopped texting her and stopped texting me. He hired a private attorney who looked like he already knew how this ended. The forensic report came back showing transfers into shell accounts and then out into hers. It showed the house was paid for with diverted funds from the company we both owned. The judge ordered a temporary injunction returning possession to me pending trial. I got the keys back that afternoon and cried in the driveway for a long time. She packed up her things and left in a van that didn't have her name on the side. She shouted as she left that he'd always forgive her and that I'd regret it. I didn't. My husband arrived 3 hours later with his attorney and a stack of papers trying to gaslight me into signing a covenant so he could stay. I handed them to my lawyer and asked him to read the part where he gave away my life. He started to cry then. Real tears, not for me but for the consequences. He asked for my forgiveness and for me to keep it quiet to avoid public scandal. I didn't give it. I asked him when he'd start paying rent like the rest of us. Court moved faster after that. He was charged with fraud and theft by deception related to the company funds and the property transfer. I testified, and I felt like my throat would rip out of my chest. But I told the judge everything I had kept in a folder under my bed. The jury listened, and I was not the flimsy wife anymore. I was a witness, with timestamps and receipts. The plea deal included restitution and the deed being rescinded. He got probation and a requirement to enter counseling and to stay away from the house for 2 years. I signed the paperwork that put the house back in my name and ended the legal part of it. There was no jail time, and that felt wrong and complicated, and also like the only path that made anything stop burning. The Mistress moved out of state and changed her name. The company closed and opened again under a new manager without him. My marriage dissolved over the next 3 months without fanfare. We split the small things, and the dog stayed with me. In the aftermath, I did the boring work people think fixing a life is. I changed the locks again. I paid off a credit card he had maxed. I painted the guest room a color that made me breathe. I started therapy and set new rules about privacy and money. I learned to keep copies of documents and to trust my instincts before I collected proof. Months later, I rented a small place downtown with sun and a balcony and no ghosts. I bought a cheap plant and named it something boring and alive. My parents mailed me a card that said they were sorry and that they loved me. They didn't try to fix everything with a quick dinner anymore. Sometimes strangers asked how I handled them. I said I did what I had to do. I still don't know how to feel about any of it, but at least the truth is out. My husband gave our house to his mistress in a text and told me find somewhere else.